He may not get the widespread 4 to 5-star high school talent that those of Ohio State, Alabama, Oregon, USC, and Florida State, just to name a few, are able to get on a yearly basis. But the one thing that Bill Snyder does, he finds the right players for his particular team. And his results speak for themselves. Look at last season. 9-4, third place finish, and the two teams that finished ahead of K-State played in major bowl games in the form of TCU and Baylor. K-State, though, will enter this year, despite having the majority of their players back from last year, missing several quality pieces. And unfortunately for K-State in 2015, that old saying, quality is better than quantity, could loom large. What do I mean? Well, first of all, talking about Jake Waters and Tyler Lockett. And don't forget Curry Sexton as well. These were three big-time playmakers for K-State last year as the Wildcats. I'm not saying they had an air raid attack, but they did the majority of their offensive damage by throwing the football. Last season, they threw for nearly 3,800 yards. And not only was Jake Waters an integral part of that, but he was also the team's second leading rusher. So you can tell he's a big loss for them, as is Tyler Lockett, a receiver that caught over 1,000 yards in passes. By the way, he was also a threat on special teams. So him and Sexton are gone. So what do you do if you're K-State? Well, Bill Snyder is going to go with the backup from last year, it looks like, Joe Hubeiner. And Hubeiner, this will be something new for him. He not only has never started a college football game before, he didn't even start a high school game. So this is really unfamiliar territory for this guy. And I'm not saying he can't do it, but to say that he lacks experience, that would be a duh. And backing him up, Jesse Ertz and also Alex Delton. So, but Hubeiner right now looks like he is a number one for the job at quarterback at KSU. Now, behind him, Charles Jones, a guy that does have experience, but keep in mind that unlike several seasons under Bill Snyder that we've seen before, running the ball wasn't exactly the main priority. And Jones last season, he had what you would call average year. 5'10", 197, so you know he can boogie. We'll see how many opportunities he gets compared to last season. And Dalvin Mormack, also to Jarvis Leverett, they're backing him up. Expect those guys to see playing time too. As we mentioned, the wide receivers, and you got to replace Lockett and Sexton. Not going to be an easy job. So stepping into the mix, a guy that played some last year, that's Cody Kook, a little over 250 yards receiving and a touchdown from a year ago. And Dante Burton as well. You can tell K-State's playmakers aren't there anymore. So it's not to say that they cannot form new playmakers or that the talent's not already there, but it's proven playmakers, and that's why Kansas State's not going to be picked as high in the Big 12 as in years past. But then again, sometimes the teams that weren't picked very high under Bill Snyder were the ones that actually overachieved and found themselves either winning the Big 12 or at least finishing in the upper half. And what I'm trying to tell you, if K-State ends up having another 9 to 10 win season, they're going to surprise me and a lot of other people, but it wouldn't be the first time. The offensive line looks like the most solidified part for K-State. 4 of the offensive linemen return, and you return a couple of all Big 12 talented players, including first-team tackle Cody Whitehair at 6'4", 309. Quick feet for a guy his size. And Boston Stiverson at the guard position, also at 6'4", and weighing just a few pounds more than Whitehair at 312, reportedly. You'll have those guys, and don't forget about the fullback either. Glenn Gronkowski. You might remember Rob Gronkowski from the New England Patriots? Well, that's his brother. Glenn, not too bad of a player in terms of what he could do, even though he doesn't get very many touches. He did have a 60-yard-plus touchdown reception against Oklahoma a year ago in that critical win for the Wildcats last season during midseason, but he does most of his damage when it comes to blocking. He's not quite as big as his older brother, with New England, but he is a solid blocker. So Gronkowski, we'll see if he gets more opportunities, though, with the pigskin. One of the biggest reasons why K-State does really well and sometimes better than what you might think, they're very disciplined. They don't beat themselves. They know that fundamental football, in the end, wins out. Last season, 32 minutes time of possession per game. 90% red zone offense. That's right, 90% of the time, K-State got a score of some sort when getting inside the opponent's 20. and only 57 penalties for the entire season. That's less than 5 per game. Those 3 categories I just mentioned, top 15 out of 128 teams in the country. Now that, as Jimmy Walker might say, dynamite. And turnover margin, by the way, +8. That's top 25 in all of FBS football. Defensively, there are some key pieces missing. No more Ryan Mueller, and he was a big-time part of that defense, as was Jonathan Truman. But compared to the offensive side, defense, I think, is a little more recoverable for them. Remember, K-State's first 3 games, we'll talk about in a little bit, are not what I would call very competitive. The 3 non-conference games are ridiculously easy. So this will give time for K-State's defense to get gelled. And last season, they only allowed 23 points per game, 29th in the country. But again, we'll see how they do without those guys who are not there anymore. But one guy that you will have, and that is Jordan Willis at a defensive end, 6'5" and 250 pounds. They'll be counting on him, along with an experienced defensive tackle in Travis Britz. And Britz, you know, he's a tackler, but also, too, he can block kicks. He's blocked 5 for his career, 6'4", 293. Looking at the linebacker, Will Davis. Will Davis will get his shot at the middle linebacker, but outside linebacker is, I think, where you can be the most optimistic if you're a Wildcat fan, because Elijah Lee at 6'3", you know, just 214, but has terrific close down speed and again can get to the quarterback. Secondary will be the biggest area of strength, I think, for the Wildcats, and that means that you involve both corners. That is Morgan Burns as well as Danzell McDaniel. McDaniel last season, 59 tackles. You'll have him back along with the safety, Dante Barnett. Barnett is going to be a highlight player this year because of his tackling, but also, too, had 3 picks a year ago for the Wildcats. Special teams-wise, boy, oh boy, does Kansas State wish that they had played Matthew McCrane earlier in the year. You might remember that September game, nationally televised on Thursday, Kansas State losing to nationally ranked Auburn. K-State missed 3 makeable kicks, all by Jack Cantel. But McCrane, when he got his shot, hey, look, better late than never, right? Made every kick except one of them. 18 of 19, including a couple of 50-yard plus field goals. So he's got a reliable leg and a strong leg as well. So place kicking looks like it's going to be an area of strength for K-State. Looking at the schedule for the Wildcats, as I mentioned before, it is ridiculously a breeze. South Dakota at Texas, San Antonio, and Louisiana Tech are not going to make K-State fans bite their nails. If so, then K-State's going to be in for a long year. You should be 3-0 if you're K-State. You get the bye week. But the month of October, those first 5 Big 12 games, all could be losses. Playing at Oklahoma State. K-State has not won in Stillwater since 1999, and Oklahoma State has a pretty darn good offense. So that will be a challenge for K-State. Oklahoma State should be improved compared to last year. Cowboys came on strong late in 2014. TCU and Oklahoma at home. We know that the Horned Frogs are second in the country and feature one whale of an offense. Oklahoma, even though on paper K-State could steal that one, remember, K-State has never beaten a Bob Stoops Oklahoma team in Manhattan. They're 0-4 when Bob Stoops is the head coach at Oklahoma and when the 2 teams play in Manhattan, even though K-State pulled off the upset in Norman a year ago. You go to Texas, nothing special on offense, but defensively will be very good. K-State lost the last time they went there. That was in 2013. And then the Baylor Bears, you get them, I believe, on a Thursday night, November the 5th. We know Baylor's offense will be incredibly loaded. Those 5 games are an absolute gauntlet for K-State, but at least you close out the year at Tech, Iowa State at home, you go to Kansas, and end the year with West Virginia, who has hopes of maybe being a sleeper in the Big 12, but you get them in Manhattan. I like the ending of the schedule for K-State, and I think they're capable of pulling off at least one upset. And, of course, the beginning should be fine. But the middle layer of that schedule, and given the fact that right now they don't have as many proven playmakers as what we saw in the past, for K-State, could be a year of a little bit of regression. They'll still be a bowl team, but I've got them going 7-5 and finishing in a tie for the number 6 spot with a 4-5 Big 12 record. But if they overachieve, like I said, it wouldn't be the first time that Bill Snyder has proven me and so many others wrong. That does it for my preview of the Wildcats. Catch you next time.